Hello, everyone, and welcome back to The Rundown, where we talk about 2A news and conservative views. I will be your host today, Craig DeLuz, coming at you from the West Coast, the left coast, behind the Iron Curtain, otherwise known as the Sierras. But as we all know, I do not do this program by myself.
That's right. My name is Mike P. Waworski, coming to you live from the East Coast. That's the coast with the most, from the co-host with the most here on The Rundown. 2A views, conservative news, and Craig, guess what day it is?
Mike. What day is it, Mike?
It's hump day.
Hump day!
It's hump day.
Hump day!
That's right, folks. It is Hump Day. This is the day in which we attempt to begin the weekend. Sometimes with success, sometimes not. But hey, the fun is all in the trying. Mike, how is your weekend going thus far?
It's looking like a long weekend of work. So we'll see how it works. We'll see how it works out.
Pobrecito. I feel so bad for you.
I try to have fun at work. So, we'll make the best of it. We'll make the best of it, yeah.
Well, this weekend is going to be a fun weekend, although the rest of the week I've got a couple of events that I got to attend during the week that are somewhat work-related. But having said all that, I haven't officially begun the weekend yet, but I'm trying. I'm really trying.
Best of luck for you. There you go. How about that?
Excellent. Well, I'll tell you what, before we get going, let's give a shout out to our sponsors.
Yep, let's say hey to our good friends at Hitman Industries. That's hitmanindustries.net, hitmanindustries.net. If you got yourself an AR in the past 5 years, you probably got one of their barrels and don't even know it. Well, now you can buy from them direct. Get your own barrel for your next AR build or rebarrel your current AR platform. That's hitmanindustries.net. California Republican Assembly, fighting the good fight behind enemy lines. Now you can take part in California's future today, so check out the California Republican Assembly. You want the best in tactical concealed holsters? Get on over to Hog Holsters. That's HAWGholsters.com, HAWGholsters.com. Use the discount code The Rundown, all one word, all caps, no spaces. Get a nice little discount. And if you want some field gear, go to the woods kind of gear, go hiking gear, go visit our friends at uscombatgear.com.
That's right, folks. Our sponsors bring us to you so that we can bring you to them. So do us a favor. Do yourself a favor. Visit them. All you got to do is follow the links in the description to this program and check them out and make sure you tell them those the guys over at The Rundown that sent you. Also want to remind you, however you are partaking of the program, please make sure to share it with your friends. Let your friends know this is the place to be. 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern, every weekday. Check it out. Folks, and by the way, for those of you watching on Opslands, once again, I want to remind you, we're live, so go ahead and comment, and we'll be looking for your comments to respond to. We don't care how you partake, as we like to say. We just care that you partake.
all your friends are doing it.
Exactly. All right. Let's go ahead and get into story item number one. You guys all know of Alvin Bragg. He is the Manhattan District Attorney who has been the first district attorney to ever indict a former president. Now, mind you, we all know that this is a political stunt. He is basically charging him 34 times for the same exact thing. And because he's charging him 34 times, he's charged them all with felonies tied to because he evidently did this same thing 34 times in order to cover up another more serious crime, which, by the way, is not named in the indictment. But none of this is political retribution or a political attack. Or so he claims. Now, mind you, they're using federal funds in which to do this. The weaponization committee there in the House of Representatives, who, by the way, the House of Representatives, controls the purse strings for Congress. They sought an investigation as to how federal monies are being spent in the judicial system by local DAs. And one of those DAs just happens to be Alvin Bragg. And they've requested, because they're trying to find out exactly under what authority are you using federal funds to go after a former sitting president. Well, the Manhattan DA is all upset, so he decided to sue Jim Jordan, who's the chairman of this committee, over the Trump indictment inquiry. Now, mind you, Bragg hasn't been charged with anything. All he's saying is, look, we want to have someone on your staff come and talk to us and give us help us to understand exactly what is your authority to go after a sitting president. This has never happened before, Mike. Ever happened before. This is unique. And by the way, not just a former sitting president, but the leading Republican nominee for the opposition party for president of the United States. Mike, and he has the nerve. Alvin Bragg has the nerve to accuse Congress of, or Jim Jordan of, basically this being political retribution.
Yeah, right. It's political retribution against political retribution. So doesn't that cancel each other out? Wouldn't that cancel each other out?
I believe it. I believe it does. I believe it does. Although, does that mean two wrongs don't make a right, or a wrong and a right still make a wrong?
I don't know if two rights make a wrong, but I know three lefts make a right. Okay, folks. So we know that Alvin Bragg was paid $1 million by George Soros to prosecute President Trump, former President Trump. That's all there's to it. That's a fact. That's not a disputed fact. We know that Alvin Bragg charged former President Trump with an unknown crime. By the way, the unknown crime the feds already looked at for interference with an election and deemed it was not such, and dismissed any, or didn't even dismiss charges. They never brought charges against him. Alvin Bragg, though, decided that one charge was worthy of 34 felony counts, again, after being paid $1 million by George Soros to fund his campaign if he promised to go after President Trump, former President Trump. So there you go. So what does Alvin Bragg do? He files a motion with the court saying, we don't want the feds coming in here and looking at what we're doing. And Craig, the reason the feds have the authority to do such is federal monies were used during this investigation. So the feds have the absolute authority to come in and say, show us what you've done with our money that we gave you. And now Alvin Bragg's saying, no, I'm more important than you and the feds. And he's actually filed suit to remove the subpoena powers from Congress over his investigation. I mean,
it's kind of funny because you even have Jim Jordan here quoted. Well, first of all, let me say, it says Congress lacks any valid. This is from the lawsuit. It says Congress lacks any valid purpose to engage in free-ranging campaign of harassment in retaliation for the district attorney's investigation and prosecution of Mr. Trump under the laws of New York. The law. That's what the lawsuit says. Now, in response, where is it at here? Jim Jordan said, I just had the quote up. Anyway, but basically Jim Jordan says he's got some nerve actually trying to, he's got some nerve for charging Donald Trump, and then when we inquire as to how you're using federal funds, to then say, yeah, no, you don't get to check on how you're using federal funds. No, you don't get to do that. By the way, just want to be real clear. George Soros gave a bunch of money to a PAC that gave $1 million to Bragg's campaign. So I just wanted to be specific about that. You're right, Mike. I just wanted to be real clear as to how that went, because many in the media have been pointing out, well, no, he actually didn't donate to him directly. Well, yeah, right.
Semantics, Craig. That's if I said, hey, Craig, I'm going to send you $100 if you could give it to our friend Billy next time you see him because I owe him $100. Right. I gave him the $100 through you. That's all there is to it.
Well, no. I completely agree. I just wanted to help people to understand how that worked. So
yeah,
you're not inaccurate in your statement. It's just, once again, the left tries to act like, well, that's not really what happened. And folks, that's exactly what happened. Again, by the way, he's not the first and the only district attorney that has been bought off. By Mr. George Soros.
Many. In fact, we're dealing with right here in In Florida, Soros has funded a bunch, and school board members trying to go up against Captain Florida, Governor DeSantis. But yeah, the irony of all this, Craig, is that you have Alvin Bragg saying you cannot, the feds cannot harass us while we harass the former president.
Well, exactly. What's funny is, now mind you, this is by the way also at a time in which they are receiving unprecedented amounts of money from Congress to go after actual crime. And we're seeing in New York, crime is on the rise. Violent crime is on the rise. I mean, there are a number of high-profile assaults and murders committed by people who, in many cases, should have already been locked up, that are out on the streets specifically because Alvin Bragg is not doing his job. Instead, he's grandstanding and going after the president of the United States.
You know, it's amazing that. Right now, New York is saying that, and Alvin Bragg's office saying that crime is down since Alvin Bragg took office. And they're using what I like to call baseball stats, Craig. I know you're kind of a baseball fan, but baseball stats, you'll see during a boring game, the announcers will say stuff like, oh, and by the way, you saw this in the movie Major League. They'll say like, well, he's hitting 400 on Thursdays after 4 p.m. against left-handers, you know? Alvin Bragg's doing the same thing. They're like, assaults are down on Tuesdays by people with green shirts. You know, they're coming up with those kind of stats to say crime is down.
Except if on Tuesday it's St. Patrick's Day.
That's right. We don't
All right,
count.
I found that quote. It says here, first they indict the president for no crime. Then they sue to block congressional oversight. When we ask questions about the federal funds, they say they say they used to do it. Now, mind you, he hasn't been charged, as you said, Mike, with a federal crime. He's charged with covering up a federal crime for which, like you said, even Alvin Bragg, when he was working for the feds, chose not to prosecute.
This is what, in legal terms, is known as shenanigans, Craig. It's in black.
Known as BS is what it's known as in legal terms.
Yep. Bull shenanigans.
Well, you know, and the thing is, Mike, and this will kind of lead us into our next story. Crime is running crazy. Now, mind you, violent crime as a whole is down year over year. When I say violent crime, I mean in particular murders. But that's because in 2021, we hit an all-time high. But crime as a whole is up. And it's up in particular in blue cities. When I say blue cities, I mean cities that are run by Democrats, right? And one of those cities, not just New York, right, where once again, you have DAs who've decided that they are going to not prosecute crimes, but you've also got places like San Francisco. And San Francisco, to their credit, they have actually gotten rid of Jessa Bodine, their George Soros elected district attorney, and replaced him with someone who does seem interested in actually going after crime. The problem is that you have a city council that also voted to defund the police, right? And you have a police department that has decided, yeah, no, you know what? Police, they're like, you know what? We're going to, if anyone who could retire has retired, and nobody wants to work there because the city council still has policies in place that work against the police department. Not only San Francisco, but the state of California has made it very, very difficult for law enforcement officers to do their jobs. And so, you know that for those of you who don't know, Whole Foods is a rich man's, Trader Joe's, for lack of a better term, or wealthy man's Trader Joe's. It's incredibly expensive, organic, natural foods place, right? And they just opened. They've been open about a year there in San Francisco, and they basically decided that they had to close because their workers simply do not feel safe going to work. They are being accosted by the homeless, by muggers. Shoplifting is rampant throughout San Francisco as well as in their store. This is the sign of the apocalypse when a Whole Foods in San Francisco closes down.
Yeah, how could they close, Craig? Everybody in San Francisco is so peaceful. You know, they got flowers in their hair and needles and poop on the street. It's such a great place to be. I don't know
Well,
how they
isn't
could
poop
say
on the street
crime.
natural?
I mean, poop is natural. It's just where you put it, I guess, is not natural. I think. Right?
Well, and Mike, it's funny when you watch some of these city council meetings, you have members of their city council or the county board of supervisors, whichever it is, because they're both a city and a county at the same time.
Right.
But you've got people who are just act like they had nothing to do with cutting their budget, like they had nothing to do with defunding their police. And now they're all incredulous that they don't have more law enforcement officers patrolling their streets.
Yeah, it's hypocrisy. It's great. It's best, right? You've got them saying, defund the police, and then the next sentence we have to close this down because we don't have enough police protection. What? Are you insane? Is that what you are? I guess it's more bipolar than hypocrisy.
Well, it's not what it really is. It's not willing to accept the failure of their policies. And if someone is willing to recognize that, okay, we did that, it didn't work, we were wrong, and demonstrate a change of direction, yeah, you're going to get some ribbing for being wrong, but you're going to get ribbing for being wrong anyway. Why not at least admit it and then change your policy?
Yeah, it didn't work. We're going back on it. We're going to fix it. How about that, folks? Wow. Okay.
Imagine that. Politicians admitting they made a mistake.
Yeah. Yep. Well, know what they do, Craig? They don't say that they were wrong. They'll just tell you they've been more right before.
Well, right. Well, that's the other thing is they're like, well, for example, every time you look at a shooting that takes place in a place where there are tons of gun control laws, their attitude is, clearly that's evidence that we need more gun control laws. Yeah. No, they're not working. Doing more of that doesn't work. How about this? How about you stop letting criminals out on the streets?
That's it.
You can solve more than one problem that way.
Yep. We need to take action. We must do something.
Yeah, something. I always like to say this. Their fight is for change. Right. Out of the frying pan into the fire is an example of change.
Yeah, right. For them it is. Yep.
Anyway. So there is a poll out. You guys know how much we love polls. Well, this poll basically has said about half the people out there. Let me see. Who was this poll done by again? It was just published on Tuesday. It was done by Mammoth University. And in this poll, they are saying that half of the people who have been polled are saying that Biden's policies have not helped. He's saying they have not helped the middle class at all. And I think that is just an obvious statement of the obvious. How can you believe that it has helped the middle class when, yes, you can say that salaries are up, household income is not up, but salaries have gone up, but inflation has outpaced salaries. And by the way, inflation continues to go up. They just did a release of the numbers, and they're saying, "Hey, inflation is not going up. It's staying about the same," which basically means that it's about 6%, meaning it's not worse this month than last month, but prices are still going up. And that's, by the way, across the board. When you look at specifically food, it's still up 8.5% year over year. So foods continue to be higher than everything else. When we are consistently looking at the fact that major companies are laying people off, when we consistently look at the fact that prices are going up beyond what people's salaries are going up, and the quote unquote Inflation Reduction Act does nothing more but increase prices, how is he doing? It just seems kind of obvious to me that nothing he's doing is helping the middle class.
No, Craig. Speaking of the last story, the example we were making, bring the headline page back up for me real quick that we were just looking at with Brandon on it there. The left's inability to tell you the truth, right? They're going to come up with the lie rather than admit they were wrong. This says new poll says Biden policies have not helped the middle class, right? Rather than saying that the left's policies have hurt the middle class, they're telling you they just haven't helped. Okay, read beyond the story and read beyond the headline and figure out what the real story is that the current policies are hurting the middle class. All right, if it's not helping, guess what it's doing? It's hurting. Okay, so that's the real story, is that the policies that are out there are starting to put the squeeze to all the way to decimate the middle class here.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what it is. That is exactly what's going on here. Is they're trying to cover up the fact that his policies just flat out aren't working. And one of the reasons why, even though many in the media don't want Biden to run again, one of the reasons why they're willing to carry his water is because the policies he's implementing are going to be the same exact policies that any Democrat would be implementing as president. Kind of like how in Chicago, they basically just took a male-looking Lori Lightfoot and replaced her with a male Lori Lightfoot.
Yeah, well, I mean, at least this guy's got better hair, I'll give him that.
Exactly. He definitely has better hair, slightly better facial hair.
Yeah, slightly better. Slightly better. Yeah.
But Mike, it's once again, and going back to this, his policies. Let's talk just a little bit about some of those policies. He cut off domestic oil production. When I say cut off, he's highly restricted domestic oil production, which has driven up the cost of oil and driven up the cost of gas in the United States. He has printed basically money. I mean, we are going to be we're spending more money than ever before in American history, which has caused inflation. Right? The CBO, every economist out there has talked about how the massive spending that this administration continues to push has flooded the economy with so much money that the cost of everything has been pushed up. One only need go to the grocery store. And I was just at the grocery store the other day, and I walked off with a basket full of like $200 worth of groceries. And I'm like, that used to be like a major shopping day. And I didn't hardly have anything in the basket. I mean, I'm not the only one experiencing that.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. You see his policies as it hurts, and the left is just continuing to willingly accept it because otherwise we'd have mean tweets. It's coming down to some sort of confrontation, Craig. I don't know what it is, and I'm not talking about a violence or anything like that, but something's got to happen between the left and the right here to get over this hurdle, because we're not going to get there under the current method.
Well, I would just love to be able to just have the conversation about the truth, right? That of anything, the most frustrating thing is that if we present all the information and all of the facts and people still decide they want to go with the leftists, I'm going to hate it. I'm going to be pissed off about it. But at least I won't blame the politicians. I'll blame the people. But what gets me is when there are clear and utter
that's where we are, though, Craig. The
disinformation.
The truth is out there, and they don't want to hear the truth.
The mainstream media is not telling the truth. The politicians aren't telling the truth. I'll give you an example. It's kind of off topic. Let's talk about the Tennessee 3, right? You notice every single time there's a news report, they say they were removed for a gun violence protest. No, they were removed because they were in the middle of a legislative session in the rostrum with a bullhorn, making it so that no business could be done. It was, by definition, an insurrection. Right? A real insurrection. and they were voted out. And they said, oh, well, it was racism. Well, the white person who didn't get removed, it was funny how she got up and she said, well, you know, they were the ones with the bullhorns and holding the signs. I was just standing next to them, right? And so by one vote, she got to stay. And then afterwards, she was like, oh, well, it was racism that they got removed. Right?
well, Craig, and you're helping make my point, right? One of those representatives that was ousted by the state legislature was his name? It was Justin Jones, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he was from the Nashville area, the district of Nashville there. Well, in their state, that city council or that county council that's over that district can reappoint them. So they've already reappointed him back to the state legislature. They don't want the truth, Craig. It has nothing to do with the truth. They want their guy in there, you know, speaking their rhetoric. So one that's already been removed by the state legislature has already been reappointed. It's got nothing to do with the truth. It's got to do with their side wanting what they want.
Well, and once again, but their story, all they're telling is, oh, well, it was racism. Now, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
I'll point this out. I don't know the answer to this question, but here's what I will postulate, whatever you want. What's the word I'm looking for? Anyway, I'm willing to bet that these are not the only two black legislators in the House there in the lower house there in Nashville, right? In Tennessee, right? Now, if that's the case, if they're racist, why didn't they just remove all of the black legislators? I mean, if they did it because they were black, why didn't they remove all the black legislators?
Because they don't have the opportunity to go after the other ones because they didn't commit any crimes. All right, they were removed for committing crimes. If they were really racist, they would have just removed all of the black ones. But you know, that we've done our best to get rid of you know, Jim Crow politicians inside state legislatures. Do they still exist? Yeah, but mostly at the federal level, you know.
So in other words, it was the behavior of these legislators, not the color of their skin.
Yeah, there's 12 black or African American members in the Tennessee House of Representatives. So 2 were removed.
Right. Because of the color of their skin, right?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. The other 10, Craig, they probably lived in like white neighborhoods, so they got some sort of credit for it.
Probably. That's probably what their proximity to whiteness. That's the reason why. That it must be their proximity to whiteness that allowed them to keep their positions in the Tennessee legislature.
They used their beige privilege card, is what they did.
Oh my. Okay. Moving right along. Moving right along. Climate deniers removed from teachers conference. Now, the thing that got me about this is these folks are not climate deniers. Well, first let me show you the story. So this is a story out of the Washington Post, and I just found it interesting that I was actually able to pull this story up since I do not subscribe to the Washington Post. I refuse to give this left-wing rag any of my money. But I guess they wanted to make sure that people saw this. So they accused this group called the CO2 Coalition of basically being climate deniers and had them removed for handing out 700 copies of a comic book. And in this comic book, the whole point of it was to talk about the benefits of CO2, what CO2 does, and to talk about and really engage in a conversation about climate change and about, you know, all of these attacks on trying to reduce CO2 emissions. About, you know, basically their goal, Mike, is they want to make sure that we're not overdoing our fight against CO2. Now, this is CO2 Coalition's website. And it's actually quite interesting because really what they're trying to do, once again, is promote a balanced conversation on climate and on CO2. And one of the things, Mike, that's funny about this is when you read the actual story, they're talking about how, for example, CO2 is used by plants to produce oxygen and produce food. And I'm like, and statements like that, which, by the way, you and I know from junior high school science class, right? Basic biology. We know that to be true. I'm like, how is that misinformation?
It's not. It's not. It's just information they don't like. It's not the woke ideology, so it has to go. It's not allowed to be part of their conference. Not allowed to be part of their conference.
Well, and the thing that gets me about it, Mike, is we're the science deniers, right?
Right.
The people who, by the way, the people who don't know how to define a woman, they're the ones who believe in science. The ones who have ignored the science on masks, the science on the vaccine, the science on men and women, the science on climate, they're the real scientists. But the rest of us, well, we're the science deniers.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of the science, Craig, quick reference. You'll like this one, I hope. In the Army, because we do great things in the Army, we don't haze people at all by any means. You'd get somebody, and they would. You've heard the term oxygen thief, right? Well, that guy really has no purpose here. In fact, he's gone beyond having a purpose here. He's just stealing oxygen. We used to take those people and make them carry houseplants around as part of their daily function, and the reasoning was the plants replacing the oxygen that this guy's stealing.
I hope, I don't believe that qualifies as hazing, but nonetheless, it is hilarious. Speaking of hazing, it's about that time for parting shots. Folks, these are brought to you by Hog Holsters. You can find them at hogholsters.com. Get yours today by using the discount code The Rundown. All caps, no spaces. Get your Hog Holster today. All right, a couple of things we'll look at. And, well, here's one that I just saw, and I've seen this before, but what I like, there was a new twist to this, and this is the Venezuela timeline. Now, for those of you who may or may not know, Venezuela not too long ago was a free market, really Latin American economic success story. Am I overstating it, Mike?
No, they were actually outpacing us for a while as far as economic growth and success.
Yeah. And then, then they got on a path here. And if you look here, it says 1992 became by the way, Venezuela says Venezuelan timeline. 1992 became the third richest country in the hemisphere. 1997 became the second largest producer of F-150. That's a truck for those of y'all who don't know.
Yep.
2001 voted for socialist president because of income inequality. Are we starting to recognize some similarities here? 2004, private healthcare is completely socialized. We're on our way to that. 2007, all higher education becomes free. That is something that they are proposing. Especially when they're trying to get rid of student loans. 2009, socialists banned private ownership of guns. Working on that one. 2012, Bernie Sanders praised their American dream. 2014, opposition leaders imprisoned. That's what they're working on right now. And by the way, there happens to be a little arrow with a little in red writing, "You are here." And I believe, Mike, they're talking about the United States.
President Trump.
President Trump, as well as those who worked for him. 2016, food and healthcare shortages become widespread. 2017, Constitution and elections are suspended. 2019, unarmed citizens massacred by government. At the end, it says it only took one generation of progressive leadership to plunge this country into civil war. And, Mike, I got to tell you, I believe we can avoid civil war. It's not hard to see the trajectory that progressivism takes you.
But they're pushing you there. Craig, if you don't think that they're trying to push you to do a January 6th style thing so they can publicize it again, then you're fooling yourself. They're pushing you.
No. I get that that's what they're trying to do. The fact is they've been waiting, and it's amazing because the left gets to engage in political violence. And it's known as quote unquote peaceful protest. If
Most
the right dares say anything, I'm not even talking about what they do. If they say anything, well, even their speech is considered to be violence and therefore is deserving of either a legal response by law enforcement to take you away and imprison you, or for the woke mob to attack you physically.
Yep. Absolutely.
And that would be what they're doing. So, for examples, I mean, for pointing out things like the obvious, well, like this one. When you realize they took a real black woman off of a syrup, the look you make when you realize they took a real black woman off of a syrup bottle and put a fake white woman on beer cans.
Well, I'm not sure that I ever considered Bud Light a real beer, but yes, I get the point.
Yeah, I agree with you. It was funny because yesterday I played the video from the marketing person who was like, well, we've got to try and find a way to get people to drinking this iconic beer brand again. I'm like, you don't understand. What happened is Bud Light sucks. And it is literally, no one drank it because it's bad beer. And beer has actually gotten better. And Bud Light hasn't.
You know what the Europeans say about Bud Light, right?
What?
They say it's like having sex in a canoe. It's effing close to water.
Got it. All right, and our final one. This has a mom washing dishes at the sink, and little. Well, I don't want to gender. Little girl. I'm gonna say a little girl walks up, and she says, "What did you learn at school today, Janie?" And she says, "My teacher says it's none of your business, and my new name is Jake." That is what they're pushing in public schools today. They literally believe that you have no right as a parent to know what your children are learning or how they are trying to indoctrinate your children at school.
So that's why I'm saying, go to the school board, give them a few rights, maybe a few lefts too.
Let them know your rights. Let them know your rights. Let them know your lefts.
Yep.
All right, Mike, we're coming up against it. So why don't you do me a favor? Give me those secondary shout-outs to our sponsors.
Hitman Industries, hitmanindustries.net. You can get any length of barrel you want in any pistol or rifle caliber. Go to hitmanindustries.net. California Republican Assembly, fighting a good fight behind enemy lines. Take part in California's future today. And for the best out there in field gear, tactical gear, hiking gear, all the kind of gear you want when you're walking around outside, go to uscombatgear.com.
Thank you, folks. Please visit our sponsors and make sure to tell them the guys over at the Rundown sent you. And with that, Hump Day is now officially in the bag. We will be back tomorrow on Thirsty Thursday. Y'all take care, have a good time, and we will see you mañana.